morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, I had a voice for radio. So today, we're going to be looking at a new Mr. Mime card. I'm going to be honest with you, right? I don't like Mr. Mime. It is one of my least favourite Pokemon. But this new card is going to change the game in a very, very pronounced way. So let's have a chat about it, shall we? Now, our translations here do come from the lovely Cerebi.net, a great website that if you're not checking daily, boo, hiss, etc. Although I have, of course, checked with a lovely David Hochmann because, you know, that's what I do. Now, it's an 80 HP Pokemon, which is kind of rubbish, to be honest, because it means that you've got naff all HP, your weakness to Psychic is rubbish. I mean, if you ever get anywhere near a Garbodor, it's just going to be a massacre. And it's just out of range of being able to be searched out with Professor Elm's lecture. No, ladies and gentlemen, this is not a good amount of HP. The retreat cost of 1 is nice because this is a bench sitter and that's quite low. And being a Psychic Pokemon means you are hitting a good weakness against stuff like Buzzwole, but that's going to be largely irrelevant. Ladies and gentlemen, the reason we're using this is for the ability, which is nuts. Now it says, as long as this Pokemon is in play, your opponent cannot return any of their Pokemon with damage counters and all cards attached to them to their hand. What it means is, you can't use Acerola. This is an incredibly transparent Acerola counter. This is about as obvious a counter. I think the last time I saw a counter that was this over the top, shouting from the rooftops what we were doing, was the Heatmore that came out in Dark Explorers. You see, at the time, we had Durant. Durant was an incredibly annoying mill deck. I've made a video about how I hated it. I'll pop a link to that one in the description. And Durant was basically ruining everything. So what they did was they printed Heatmore, which literally read 10 damage. If the defending Pokemon is Durant, this attack does 50 more damage. So it did 120 with weakness, and then of course Durant's got 70 HP, so even if they were trying to protect it a little bit, things like Eviolite at the time, it wouldn't even come that close to saving it. It was kind of hilarious how in your face they were, and we're back. This Mr. Mime is literally going, ha, no Acerola for you, in your face. But you know what? Is that such a big thing? Because the thing to remember is, this is an ability on a basic Pokemon. So we've got a Alolan Muck. So if you really, really want to use Acerola, you can use a Alolan Muck. Now, ironically, Alolan Muck is weak to Psychic, but no. The Mr. Mime's getting nowhere near getting a KO on this. And this is kind of hilarious and I love it. We end up in this weird triangle. You really want to use Acerola? Well, you can't because I'm using Mr. Mime. And they're like, well, in your face, I can because I'm using a Alolan Muck. And let's face it, ladies and gentlemen, Acerola is a big part of the format right now. Acerola is seeing an awful lot of play. We see stall decks at the moment. Now, the big stall deck in Expanded for a long time has been Wailord, but I've shown you a couple of stall decks recently, and they revolve around a whole bunch of Pokemon. Regigigas, 180 HP, on a basic, gives up 1 prize. Wishy-Washy, which has 210 HP, on a basic, although it is a GX. Hooper, which blocks attacks from EXs and GXs. Shuckle, which stops you attacking it unless you've got free energy attached to it. Genesect, which is bulky and can also take advantage of things like Metal Frying Pan, for instance. We've seen a whole bunch of these wall Pokemon. And the thing is, when you're playing wall Pokemon, your opponent's going to chip away at them. So what you do to stop them chipping away is you use Max Potion. You're not really using energy, so that's fine. And you use Acerola. Here's the thing. Acerola is better than Max Potion. Because you see, we've lost Puzzle of Time. So Max Potion is extremely difficult to reuse. Yeah, you've got GX attacks on stuff like Bayonet, but really, they're hard to reuse. Whereas if we take something like Acerola, you've got Palpad, which gets 2 of them back. And we've got Lucamine, which is even better, because Lucamine can create a loop. Loopsamine. Because you pick up 2 supporter cards, and one could be Lucamine. So you've got your Lucamine and your Acerola, and then you just keep looping them, keep getting them, etc., etc. Acerola can essentially be looped for pretty much the entire game. And it's what these stall decks rely on, because they will run out of max potion. And if they can't completely heal, you can chip away and KO them. Well, now Mr. Mime comes in, and Acerola is gone. There is no more Acerola, and their central strategy completely falls apart. Unless they play Alolan Muck. But the whole point of these stall decks is they only play Pokemon that are really hard to KO. And Alolan Muck's got 120 HP. So they can play Alolan Muck to give them Acerola back, but then you can just Guzma and KO the Alolan Muck. And either they put down another one and then you can Guzma and KO it, or they don't put down another one and then they can't Acerola. It is such a good weapon against these stalling decks. And it's just in time, frankly, because let's not forget Magikarp and Wailord Tag Team GX is coming, and that's got 300 HP. And that is going to be the new stall deck. And if you don't think that's going to be the new stall deck, how about Eevee and Snorlax? Okay, it has only got 270 HP, only. But the thing to remember about that is that it's got a different weakness, so you can essentially choose between these 2 cards depending on what deck you're playing against. This is why Mr. Mime is so big. But let's be clear, Acerola is not reserved for these stall decks. There are plenty of decks out there like Golisopod decks. Golisopod, first of all, it's a single energy attacker, so you heal it. Nice. But also, Golisopod does 120 for 1 energy, but only if it became active this turn. So you have a Wimpod on your bench, and you Acerola Golisopod, evolve, pop it active, keep going, etc. I mean, to be honest, you'll probably have another Golisopod on your bench, but you see where I'm going with this. You Acerola to switch between Golisopod. We've seen this in Zoroark decks, because Zoroark's got 210 HP and attacks for just a double colourless energy. So if Zoroark gets damaged, you use Acerola, pick it up, and then you've got the double colourless energy to use with Zoroark. Or we see it in the expanded format with Seismitoad. And all of this gets stopped by Mr. Mime. Now, to be fair, I've been talking about Acerola, and this is clearly an Acerola counter, but it's not the only thing that it stops. Sometimes you will get attacks that allow you to pick up Pokemon, and one of the most visible at the moment is Virizion GX's GX attack, which for 1 colourless energy puts any number of your Pokemon in play and all cards attached to them into your hand. Now, to be clear, Mr. Mime only stops you picking up damaged Pokemon. Undamaged Pokemon are fine. So this creates a weird thing. So generally speaking, Virizion is used in decks with Unknown Hand. Unknown Hand wins you the game if it's active and you've got 35 cards in hand. So you use Virizion to pick up all your Pokemon, really build up your hand, cross your fingers no one plays a judge, and then Unknown Hand goes active and you win. Well, with Mr. Mime, you can stop Virizion picking up Pokemon, which is great, but only if they're damaged. So you can end up with this weird combo where you use a Tapu Koko to spread damage to all your opponent's Pokemon, and then Mr. Mime stops Virizion. Because remember, if nothing's damaged, Virizion can still pick them up. This is a wonderful, wonderful ability because it introduces strategy and mind games back into the game. Do I need to put Mr. Mime into my deck? Is my opponent going to be playing Acerola? Or is everyone going to drop Acerola from their deck because Mr. Mime's out there? So now I don't need to play Mr. Mime and I can use the space and the bench space for something else. That's what's so cool about this. To go back to my story from earlier, the irony is Heatmore never saw any play. And I will remind you at this point, Heatmore was 1 basic energy of any type, well, 1 energy of any type, on a basic, so it's literally the easiest to tech in Pokemon possible. But actually, it was Darkrai that stopped Durant. Darkrai came out in the same set and actually just stopped Durant being a viable deck, so Heatmore never saw any play. I adore this. There is an attack, but, I mean, come on, it's 20 damage for a double colourless energy, flip a coin if heads paralysis. And look, this can buy you a turn. You need a double colourless energy, which is awkward, but flip a coin if heads paralysis has saved games before in the past. I mean, you can use Victini here, but playing a bench sitter to help your bench sitter in the unlikely event it attacks does seem a little bit over the top to me. But it's not a completely useless attack. I mean, damage-wise, it basically is. Sure, it 2-hit KOs a Buzzwole with Choice Band, but no. But it can buy you a turn with paralysis. It's not great, but it's one of those things you should always know the attacks of your bench sitters, because you never know when they're going to come in handy. There will be some games where you're playing Mr. Mime, and you just desperately need to save a turn, in which case this can actually save you. But they'll be few and far between. But for the ability alone, this is a 5 WOSSy card. I define a 5 WOSSy card as either gonna be one of the best decks in the format, or going to be teched into a whole bunch of decks and see a whole bunch of play. 5 WOSSy cards are cards I expect to see a lot of play from. Expect to see a lot of Mr. Mime. I feel like Mr. Mime like I feel about Garbodor. Garbodor might not see a lot of play because people are playing their decks in a way where they don't use that many items. As soon as people start using too many items, in comes Garbodor. That's where Mr. Mime is. Mr. Mime might go through long periods of not seeing play because people aren't using Acerola. But any time these stall decks get big, or any deck gets big that plays Acerola, and seriously, a lot of decks are playing it at the moment, Mr. Mime comes in to be like, stop right there. We ain't doing this. And that's why it's such a big, impactful card and very deserving of 5 WOSSys. But this is a part of the video where I invite all of you lovely ladies and gentlemen to tell me what you think about this particular Pokemon. Go nuts in the comment section, but please do remember the rule. Be nice, would ya? And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at the WOSSy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all of that, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. And do make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WOSSyPlays for some more WOSSy action. But by far the most important thing, as always, is to look after yourselves until next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.